A knee specialist. A one-trick pony, right? Not at the Christ Hospital Health Network. We have integrated specialists for every area of orthopedic surgery, like perfecting your golf swing again, night strolls with your partner, or walking your daughter down the aisle. Everything it takes to get your life back. We specialize in that too. The Christ Hospital Health Network, everything it takes.
The Pound This podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is episode 795, listener Q&A with Matt Kasee.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
What up, homies? Welcome to the Pound This podcast. I am so excited to chat with my buddy Matt Kasee about all of the things, including basal metabolic rate and nutrition and exercise. But before I get into that conversation, which we do talk about health coaching and the importance of having a coach, I discuss my own personal health coach, which is Sarah from Team Fit With Me. And Sarah is fantastic. And I will say, I took a little break as I was dealing with some life stuff and back on the bandwagon working with Sarah. In 1 week, it was a lot of inflammation, but going, tracking measurements and weights and stuff like that with Sarah, down almost 7 pounds in 1 freaking week. Now, again, that's water weight and inflammation. But also just, with the helpful eye and accountability buddy, some things can happen and you could feel a lot better. And the most important thing for me is feeling much better than I have had in the past few months. And so excited to be working with Sarah again and working with my macros and retooling my fitness routine as I'm working swimming in. So no matter what your goals are, whether it's weight loss, feel better, strength train, anything, Sarah and her team can help you. If you're looking for a great health coach and you want to save some money, you can save 10% off of month 1 of all packages and plans when you go to teamfitwithme.com/poundthis. And if you're looking to make your nutrition a little bit easier, highly, highly, highly recommend Clean Eats for meal prep. I've been a meal prepper for a decade and it's fantastic to have someone else do it for you. So here in Cincinnati, Clean Eats in Newport. There's also Clean Eats in Westchester. All clean ingredients. They list the macros and the calories on the meals. You can do the fresh meals, which is what I do. I do 21 meals a week because your girl ain't playing. I don't want to cook no more. I want to make things as easy as possible, which don't we all? But you can check out their grab and go section. And also there's a cafe in there. There's Clean Eats all over the country if you're not in Cincinnati, if you want to look into it. So if you want to keep your nutrition goals, you want to keep things as easy as possible, whether you just want to incorporate a meal here and there or all of your meals, definitely look into Clean Eats. And what I'm doing right now using Sarah and Clean Eats is I have all of my meals for the week. I've been sending screenshots of those and the calories and macros to Jess, who is on the team with Team Fit With Me. And then she's reworking my macros for the rest of the day. So chef's kiss, mwah, I don't have to worry about anything, stress-free, stick to my goals. Fantastic. So definitely check out Clean Eats and Team Fit With Me. And right now, let's check out Matt Kasee. Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, returning guest, Matt Kasee from Trilogy Fitness Systems. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I've been trying to think of more bad "that's what she said" jokes to keep that bit going.
Those are not bad at all.
Hopefully some can slide in.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, we have a list of questions that listeners have asked, which it seems to be our jam together is just kind of go through a hodgepodge of questions, which I'm excited to get through everything from like mindset to weight loss and everything else. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about you and your new gym space that just opened up this week, because this space is beautiful. I haven't not been there yet. I've only seen on Instagram, and you have like a mural of like cartoons, including like Ninja Turtles that are lifting, which is amazing. So tell me about your new space. Is Carly Rae Jepsen still highlighted like in your old space?
She's on my wall in my office. There's current debate on if I'm going to put her name on the door again. Some people have been telling me not to. When people tell me not to do something, though, I tend to want to do it even more. But if it's over in Ridgewater Plaza off a ridge, kind of right between Oakley and Pleasant Ridge, it's about 3 to 4 times bigger than our last space. The gym space it's beautiful. It came out incredible. And like you said, I've got a crazy mural in the front. My personal favorite part of it is we have a lifting Winnie the Pooh who's lifting a honey pot barbell.
Oh,
And that just makes me smile every time I come in and see this. I love it.
that's awesome. Well, I guess for people that have not listened to you on this podcast before and unfamiliar with you, let's go through a background of your personal training experience, your gym experience, and then also, I guess, just like the mantra and the vibe of your gym.
Yeah. So I've been a trainer for about 14, 15 years or so now. UC, then Miami for grad school, all local, ran the, interning all around the city with different coaches kind of thing. And then I decided I wanted to open up my own space because so much of fitness is kind of restrictive. And I don't like most of the fitness industry of how they approach fitness. Everything is always, be less, be smaller. You got to fix this, got to fix that. And we wanted to create a vibe that was just like, hey, come in, be the best that you can be. Let's lift some weight. Let's eat more fruit and vegetables and do some cool shit while we can.
Yeah.
And we've got a very fun, really, really incredible community there that really embodies that. And it literally brings, like this week, I've teared up like at least 4 times at the new space. So it's kind of wild for me. So like just seeing how proud and happy everybody was to be in the new space was incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just even, from my perspective, watching your social media and seeing, the members of your gym posting like their excitement of like this new space, and I'm so happy to be here. And I'm like, that's just also really awesome. And I know from the experience of like when I worked out there, again, it's just like, it's not only your other trainers there, but it's the community of people that obviously like-minded people that are there to like feel strong, feel great, but also have a ton of fun. Like it was just the moment I showed up, other people like, you're new, who are you? Hey, how are you doing? Or like, you're killing it while you're just doing it. We're like, man, this is like the most like supportive, fun group ever that makes you, excited to go like beat your own ass for an hour.
It's really cool. Like, and because our community is kind of funky and a little weird, we kind of go against the grain of typical fitness kind of stuff. That supportive stuff is just kind of naturally born. And it's like, that's the thing I'm most proud about the gym is like when people come in, like the space is big, there's machines and stuff. So it can be kind of intimidating, but like as soon as you walk in, somebody's saying, oh, hi, how are you? I'm like, I'm Tina. Nice to meet you kind of thing. Like people are so outgoing in there and so welcoming that I just love it.
And you have a 3-legged dog, which I'm assuming is welcome in the new space, or are we afraid of ruining new equipment?
Lily, she hangs out in my office, but yeah, okay. Lily will still be there hopping along, making everybody happy.
That's awesome. So let's get into some of these questions here, since we have a decent amount that people wanted to know about. And when I kind of throw it out there of like health and fitness questions, we tend to get a lot of food, or at least I tend to get a lot of food questions. So kind of starting this off, somebody said, should you watch carbs or calories or both when trying to lose weight? And also, what is more important, hitting protein goals or staying under calories?
So every time we work with people on nutrition, there's a few big rock things we want people to hit. The calories is kind of the most important thing if we're trying to lose weight or gain weight. That's priority number 1 is calories. Then priority number 2 is protein. So the coach that I work with, he kind of famously in quotation marks for his following, always says like, if you know how much protein you're eating, you're probably eating enough. If you don't track protein, don't know how much, you're probably not eating enough protein. And just about nobody gets enough protein. So making sure the protein is higher because that's going to keep you satiated and full longer. So we go calories first, then make sure we're getting good protein numbers. And then we mix in the fat, carbs, everything else based off preference. So like the low carb stuff was trending in the 80s as keto, and then it became Atkins in the late 90s, and now keto's back again. So it's like super trendy, and everybody wants to villainize, carbs, but it's our brain's preferred fuel source. Our body needs carbs for energy, so go with what you like. So if you're hitting calorie mark and you're hitting protein, fill in the rest with whatever you enjoy more. If you like a little lower carb, have fun with that. If you like a little more carb, have fun with that. It's not going to matter either way.
Yeah. I would also throw in there too, and I feel like this is probably a little bit more unrealistic for today's modern life, but if you are eating like truly clean one ingredient foods, so you are eating chicken, you are eating broccoli, you are eating rice, you are eating quinoa, you are eating beef, like these foods that like you're not eating anything processed that comes in a box and has a list on it. I would venture to say like you wouldn't even have to be as concerned with the calories as that, because are you really going to overgorge yourself with plain baked potatoes and just plain chicken to the point where it's a problem? Like you probably could, but I think that if you take things down to their most simplistic level like that, it's a lot easier to not overindulge in. Because once you, like, if you're going to have French fries, you can motor those down, no problem. But if it's just a boiled baked potato, I don't think you're going to power eat those in the same way you would eat French fries. So I think it's also just kind of looking at the quality foods you're doing and knowing what is triggering for you that makes you kind of, or you can't put it down sort of thing. And if you kind of manipulate with that a little bit, again, everything is so different for every single individual, but I think that you would maybe be in a better place, not necessarily say lose weight because you do have to be in a caloric deficit, but at least be in creating a different relationship with food where you're not like obsessively having to make sure you get 100 calorie packs of cookies to stay under a calorie count, because then that gets, I think, personally, I feel like that stuff like throws me into a binge. Like it's just enough of a taste to make me feel nuts.
Yeah. And that's what people, they want to find, like the low calorie option of this, low carb option of that. But if you're eating mostly whole unprocessed foods and you have a bowl that's full of some kind of protein, a vegetable, and rice or potatoes, like that's going to be a filling meal because you have a healthy fat in there, you have a carb, you have a lot of protein, you have a lot of fiber from a vegetable, like that's going to fill you up. And you get so much more food versus, a 100-calorie pack or fun-sized Snicker, where it's just that little taste.
Yeah.
And then most people tend to over-restrict during the day and over-restrict during the week. So then once they hit that little taste, they go, oh my God, give me more. Yeah. Give me all of it. Shove this in my face.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also the trick too, is to find those other, more natural unprocessed foods that you also get joy out of. Like I love strawberries. Like strawberries satiate the sweet tooth for me. I don't necessarily have to eat, a cosmic brownie if I'm eating strawberries and it's kind of hitting the same marker for me, or even just taking like raspberries and putting the little mini chocolate chips in the hole. That's what she said. And then you can eat those. And like, for me, like I enjoy it. It satiates that for me. And so that's enough. But I have found those kinds of triggers with more whole foods versus, if there's cake in front of me, I want to eat cake too, but is there a better option that I truly enjoy instead of feeling like, well, I'm on a diet, so I'm not allowed to have that. So I have to have the diet version of that. I feel like, which also ultimately sets you up for failure, because I don't know if anybody wants to eat diet food until they die.
No. And diet cultures we've talked about a couple times in here is horrible, and it kind of has trained people to be scared of food. So if you're hitting those base mark things, you're getting most of the whole, like, don't be scared to eat the foods you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like if you like to go a little more carb focused, like just because, you saw insert celebrity in whatever magazine or Good Morning show say, oh, I'd never eat this because it's terrible for you. Like rice is fine. Eat some rice if you like some rice. But it's almost become this thought of a punishment and fear whenever it comes to dieting and food and nutrition versus I'm going to eat whole foods that satiate my body, that I actually enjoy, that fuel the activities I want to do. And then we can get those details on the line, but having some fun and enjoyment and fulfillment with it should come first.
Yeah. Well, switching gears here to the next question. So we're going from nutrition to movement. Somebody asked, like, how do they build out a strength train routine?
Okay. So that is another one where it doesn't really matter all that much, right? And it's going to depend on the person, the amount of time that they have, the amount of days when they hit the gym. So the easiest kind of ways we like to think of, if you're going to the gym, 1 to 3 times a week, total body is perfect, right? We do one upper body pull, lower body push, lower body pull, and a core exercise. That could be a push up, a lat pull down, a goblet squat, and a leg curl, and then finish with some planks and some ab wheel, right? Total body, we hit all the movement patterns. Do that, change exercises 2 to 3 times a week, and you will have a solid little program there. If you have more time in the week, you can go kind of upper lower 4 times a week, hit 2 upper body workouts, 2 lower body workouts, and then the whole body part split. If you're going in more frequently, you can pair up different muscle groups. You can do like a leg day, a back day, a chest day, and then kind of repeat that cycle throughout the week. And that'll get you, 3 to 6 days a week. And all of your program is covered in terms of balancing out the workouts. But in order to make progress in those workouts, we still want to focus on progressive overload and making sure we're pushing your effort level on certain exercises. Not all of them, not all the time, but there should be a few exercises in there that you're kind of pushing your limit a little bit on to get this technical failure, meaning we're not going to hurt ourselves, but you're going to push yourself till you feel that form start to break down and you go, oh, that was good. On to the next one.
Where you feel the pump, bruh. Yeah,
exactly, bruh.
Well, I have a question, and this really helps nobody but me. I have a topic of discussion that I've been in with my own personal health coach, Sarah, right now, is because I'm learning to swim. I'm trying to join an adult swim team, and swimming is an aggressive form of exercise, especially with what I'm doing. I'm on average swimming a mile a day. I'm doing, for me, the two that I've been focusing on is backstroke and freestyle. And I mean, it's been wild, especially with freestyle, because there's so many different pieces to focus on. It's like you have to have so much core movement and know that you're moving your core in certain ways with every single stroke. So it's core. You're moving your legs in a different way. You're moving your arms. Your hands need to be in a placement. And your head needs to be in a certain place. And they all need to work together, like in a symphony, where it's not just separate body parts. It's like I almost had to learn them separately, so then you can incorporate it all together into this one beautiful piece of music. So to me, that's more than just traditional cardio. Yeah. And so then we were in the discussion of my own fitness routine of, with doing swimming and trying to practice swimming so much because I have goals that I want to do in this arena, then incorporating strength training into that. I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts would be with that. I don't know if you've ever had any clients before that are into swimming, and then how do you incorporate a traditional strength train gym routine into a swim routine?
So one of our long-term members of the gym, Jill, does a bunch of Ironmans. She's done a full Ironman and then I think 3 half Ironmans. Dang. So she's swimming, biking, running all the time. So whenever you have any sport activity that people kind of prefer and want to do, cycling, running, jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be, the strength training component in the traditional gym setting should take the back seat just to supplement that.
Okay.
Because there's only 1, so much time in the day, and 2, so much stress your body can handle. So we need to make sure that's balanced out, and it's kind of the efforts are focused towards the things you want to get better at. So for you, for the swimming, the effort should be focused there. But if you get a couple days a week of some strength training, working your hamstrings, your glutes, your core, your back muscles, all those type of things to keep your body balanced out and strong, that will then help your swimming.
Okay.
Because it'll strengthen your body more. It'll kind of let you recover from the swimming a little bit, and it'll allow you to kind of increase your work capacity in the swimming. So if it's done properly, a couple days a week in there would be wonderful to help your swimming.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm I just selfishly want to ask this question, because I think that's hard when somebody is, and this is where I did so much stuff with Fleet Feet in the past year or 2 years of, we were talking about cross training for runners of so many, myself included, when I was running, I did not do any sort of cross training. I didn't do any stretching either, which is also notorious for runners, which is terrible, which is also why my body is broken. But it's because you're so into the one thing and you're so focused on the one thing. But then like, how do you break out of that? And where is a healthy balance? Because it's almost like, well, if you're running every day and you're training for a marathon, when is there time to also go lift or do functional exercises, because you have goals in that? So I feel like that is like this really delicate balance where I feel like it is incredibly helpful to have a coach or a trainer or somebody there to kind of enlighten you on where to kind of pump the brakes and where to push the gas, because so you don't just go all ham into the one thing and then hurt your body from only being like functional in those certain areas.
And runners, as you just said, like notorious for all of that, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to cross train. They're not going to stretch. They're not going to lift, because the runner brain is more miles, more miles, more miles. That's how I get better at running.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of them are just kind of average, weekend warrior type people doing this stuff. So their body is just kind of breaking down. And they have no strength, no capacity to handle that. Where if they would let themselves recover, reduce their running volume a little bit, and then start playing with their intensity to the running, run a little bit faster at a higher pace for the shorter runs, a little lower pace, give yourself a little more recovery days. And then after like the big race, after the marathon, after the whatever you're doing, taking some time of going really low volume with that to rebuild your body a little bit. Everybody's times would be better. Everybody would be feeling better, but I have to get more miles. I have to get more miles to get more miles. And it doesn't take the quote unquote sciencey exercise science look at it of like, yeah, but if you're stronger and you let yourself recover and you do these things and you actually, tapered and you periodized your calendar, because that's what you're an athlete at that level, you'd kick so much more butt.
Yeah.
And you'd be running so much faster and so much safer, but they just want to get more miles in.
Well, not only that, but I think, just in my experience as a personal trainer and just questions I hear, and I know that this is also very prevalent for you. I think this is prevalent for anybody in like the fitness industry, is there's also specifically, I'm going to pull a gender card here, because I think this is more of a female issue, is that women are like, well, I'm going to get bulky then, or I'm going to lose my weight loss goals. Like I was 1000% that person too. Like running is like, I'm here, I'm losing weight, I'm doing this, I'm doing the cardio. If I start lifting into this, then I'm going to gain muscle. That's going to add onto the scale. Like, and you just don't realize that's where you're going to get that quote unquote toned look, and you're going to have a leaner body mass by doing that. But it's like, that's through conversations and understanding and being in that world more that you understand that. But I think the knee-jerk reaction is, if I stop my running for a few days to do strength training, that's going to quote unquote bulk me. I'm going to gain weight. It's going to not do me favors on the scale. That's going to make me even more nuts. And I just feel like that's what just that, not even just with running, that statement in general is weights are going to make me bulky. And I'm afraid it's going to make me gain weight. It's going to make me hungrier, and I'm going to want to eat more. And there's just so much fear around it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the insidious nature of diet culture. It's been beaten to our brains, particularly women, since the 70s and 80s, when all the workout videos, aerobic videos started coming out and everything. Nothing has ever been about people's performance, well-being, longevity. It's only been about be smaller, get skinnier, do this, do less, be less, versus, if I, eat some more carbs while I'm training for my marathon and I do a little bit of strength training, my body's going to feel better. I'm going to perform better. I'll probably end up looking better at the end of the day, which is what I'm trying to do. And there's still nothing wrong with that. It's just we go about it in such a negative way because of the fitness industry and diet culture beating that into people's brains forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of
insidious.
Of thinking about eating and carbs and back to the food, and I think because this plays a role into your like metabolism and eating and everything. The next question is, can you talk about BMR and why that's important, which is basal metabolic rate?
Yes. So basal metabolic rate, for people who don't know, is just kind of the level of caloric expenditure your body needs just to stay alive, like just to do the normal functions. And it's influenced by, hormones and age, activity levels. It's influenced by muscle mass in particular. So if we can get people to build some muscle and get a little bit stronger, their BMR is going to go higher. As we get older, every decade, our power decreases about 8%. Our muscle mass decreases by roughly 6%. And it's mostly because we become more sedentary over time. And as we get older, that muscle mass, everything drops down. We become less capable. We do less. So our energy expenditure plummets. And if we can stay a little more active, get daily steps in, do some strength training to maintain our muscle mass, that BMR stays higher. And that basal metabolic rate will help us maintain a better body composition over the long haul. So steps and then strength training, like those two things will do wonders for the BMR. And that's perfect for longevity.
I also just I thought that from, again, in my experience and being a personal trainer, and because we had the InBody machine, and to just, which would read what your basal metabolic rate was, which I feel like it was just a good piece of information for most people, is being this is your body completely at rest. If you laid in bed all day and did absolutely nothing, this is how many calories your body burns. And for a lot of people, that was a higher number than what they were eating in calories every day, of being so that's what you need to breathe. You need to eat above and beyond that. And you're still going to be in a deficit, and you can lose weight. So this idea of this 1,200 calorie thing of your basal metabolic rate is 1,500. You need 1,500 calories a day to survive alone, and you're eating 1,200 calories a day. You are not doing your body any favors. And I think that's just kind of an eye-opening exercise for people to do, to realize, your body is functioning, you're breathing, your heart's beating, you're just existing
all day long,
burns calories. And so to think that, that you have to starve yourself out of that is not helping anything or anyone.
Yeah. And then people wonder, they follow these hyper restrictive diets because they see the 12,000 calorie kind of, or 1,200 calorie kind of mark, which is just started because that was on the back of labels for easy math on stuff. That's literally why it's there. And people took that, follow it. They're hyper restrictive. They're then cranky. They're moody. They're not fulfilling and nourishing their body. So they have multiple days of this low, and then it binges. And then the weekends we go crazy. But then the average calorie will end up being over what we need if we're trying to manipulate our body weight. And the body weight just slowly creeps up. And then back to our first question, if we just nourished our body a little bit more, allowed ourselves to take in more calories, we're maintaining our BMR, we're taking more calories, we're nourishing ourselves, we're not fighting our bodies constantly, and then we can do cool shit again. But we're constantly battling our body versus just nourishing and letting our body do cool things.
Yeah. Well, and the next question I want to kind of go into this because it plays into it. Somebody's obviously it's one of the most important things is where your mindset is with all of this. But for me, talking about nourishing your body and things like that, I knew for me, because I had yo-yo dieted so long, and it was this restriction and binge and don't eat this and you're not allowed to do this. And, that for me, when on the weight loss journey I am on now, that's had long-term effects where it's been almost 11 years for me. The first year and a half, I want to say, I didn't count calories. I didn't do anything at all. I lost, a very significant amount of weight on that because I felt those, again, my mindset was those things stress me out. If I'm over, and that's for me, if I'm over stressing about, that's why I gained weight every time I did Weight Watchers, although I did Weight Watchers 1,000 years ago and it's much different now then. But the counting the points and stuff would stress me out so bad that I would starve myself all day because I'd be so afraid that I would run out of points. And then at the end of the night, I had a butt ton of points and then I would binge. And I'm I'm quote unquote doing this healthy thing for myself. And it's creating starvation and then binge on a daily basis where I wasn't even doing that daily before because I was so stressed about it. So that's where I feel you have to realize where you are and what things are triggering for you, of if counting calories, if counting macros, if all of that stuff is a stressor and it is impacting your mindset, then just don't. Just try to eat healthy. Just try to make smaller, better choices that you're feeling good about. And then for me, once I started feeling good and I had a healthier relationship with that and I wanted to achieve bigger goals and I was doing different things, Then like the meal prepping came in, and then the calorie counting came in, and then eventually the macro counting came in, because I could have a healthy relationship with it. And even now for me, like in, this year, I've gone through some tough scenarios. And so I'm like, I know for me, like, yes, it's healthy to like eat healthy and move my body, but also like things in my life the stresses are at an 11 right now, and counting macros is adding to that. So that's got to go away until I'm in a better mindset. And like, I think it's just the realization where the mindset is like, that stuff's okay. It's not like you're giving up on yourself or you're quitting or you're not doing healthy anymore. It's healthy to be like, my brain is at capacity, and counting calories and macros and over worrying about food is more of a detriment than a help at this point. Put a pause on it until it's a healthier space.
Yeah, 100%. And so much of it is meeting people, and as trainers, we have to meet people where they are. So not everybody needs that same approach, because some people's skill sets are not ready for tracking the food, tracking these things. Some people will never want to do that, and that is a-okay. There's several ways that you can go about making progress. I think so much of it is, again, the diet culture forces you like, oh, I have to do this, or I have to count points, I have to count this. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Just start making better choices, park further away, get more steps, and like start making slightly better choices. And the dominoes will start to fall, and they'll start to build up for you, and your capacity will increase. There's a guy, Don Saladino, who's a trainer in New York City. He puts a bunch of stuff on Instagram. He's working with a client I think he was 5'15" when he started with him, and walking with a cane. And all he did was that with him. He's like, I want you to meet me. So he works out with him a couple times a week. He told him to start getting his steps up, and then just start making better choices on food, right? Start drinking water, getting steps, and working out a couple times a week. And in 6 months, the guy's lost 60 pounds. He's no longer walking with a cane. He's doing all these things, and his mentality is so much better. And it's 60 pounds. It's huge.
Yeah.
And he's going this very slow, methodical manner that will allow this guy to build up his skill set, to build up his abilities and his confidence, so he can do this longer, and then hopefully keep all that off, which is what so many of us want to skip. We want to jump ahead and do all these things. And then when we drop the ball, we kick our ass. Yeah. Like I told my coach this week, we're moving the gym. And I was like, this week's gonna be crazy. I'm not tracking my food this week. I was like, I'm going to, similar to what you like, that's gonna be more of a stressor for me. But I knew, all right, I'm gonna work on protein. I'm gonna try to get more vegetables in every day. Whatever happens, happens. And I was fine. Everything worked out.
Well, and I think it's also important to note with like all, obviously all the expertise that you have and all that you've done, and or you're also like an instructor and you like teach this on like, university levels, that you still have a coach. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think people also shame themselves into being like, oh, I need help and I should know better or whatever. And it's like, no, people that are at high levels still like need coaches. Like, this is a hard thing to do, to give yourself some grace that you're not going to be perfect at it, and you're not going to be perfect at it all the time. Like, that's why there are like communities like Trilogy and places like that of like to lean on other people, because it's not an easy process. It's easy to get into your own head and get in your own way. And you need kind of somebody there to, wipe your glasses off for you so you can see a little bit clearer. And that's okay. And how there's just no shame in asking for help, or, failure is part of the process. You have to fail to realize, to realize what works, and to think that you're never going to fail ever, or not even just even be like, you're at this like quote unquote top elite level, like you're still failing all the time. Like there is just like, that's just part of the process. And I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to recognize, of like, oh, I'm going to achieve this certain level or this certain size, and I'm going to be there, and then I'm just going to coast there forever. And I've done all the things and it's done. I'm like, this is going to last until the day you die.
And I don't know we work with a lot of very smart, very accomplished people in our gym, in terms of their professional life, financially, all the things, any category of success you can think of. I do not know any single person that does not have coaching, mentors, all of these things to some level, kind of keeping them on track, kind of helping guide them and make sure they're going at any level. Everybody does, but yet somehow people are terrified to ask for help in those situations, or terrified to think like, oh, if I can't juggle 1,000 things extra to my already 1,000 thing life, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And we're so hard on ourselves versus looking for a helping hand, finding community, finding these things to kind of help you out. And then our self-talk is just so terrible all the time. And I think with the question with mentality is your self narrative is probably been going on for a long, long time, and you're not going to shift it overnight. But if you can start to kind of recognize, oh my God, I'm talking shit to myself again, or oh my God, I'm being mean to myself. Oh my God, I was negative about this. You can start to build awareness first.
Yeah.
And that's the first step with it. And then you can start to shift from like negative to neutral. And then once you can slowly make these shifts, but just like everything else, it takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of grace and self-forgiveness to kind of make progress in those things that we're not patient enough to allow ourselves to give ourselves.
Yeah. And I would argue too, that's like the hardest work other than the counting calories and worrying about, I mean, obviously nutrition and movement are huge, huge pieces, but it's like your mind has to be in the place to make those pieces work. And the self-awareness part is hard and yucky. And I just was in a conversation yesterday of meeting someone, actually somebody I should introduce you to. She's very cool.
Yeah,
that about like kind of sharing my journey and talking about like binge eating. And she's like, you know, how did you like kind of overcome and work through that? And I'm like, it's just an awful process because part of like binging is numbing out. You don't want to deal with the emotions you're dealing with. And so like for like it's drinking or over exercising or anything or watching TV or video games. It's like, how do I can't deal with this. This is my way to tap out, and eating is mine. And I'm like, so it's the hard process of like, from just being totally numb to those things when it happens, of when it starts happening, to like turn my feelings on of like, why am I feeling this? What made me feel like I needed to go into a binge? So, and then it's an awful feel. It's a yuck to feel those things. And then in the binge, like or when it's over, how do I feel about that? Like, and why did I do this? And how can I recognize the next time that these emotions are bubbling up, what's something better I can do? And so again, it takes years and years and years, but it's also be like, I can feel this buildup of emotions, but I feel better in nature and I love walking. So it's like, I'm just going to try to go for a walk to try to satiate this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's like having those tools in your tool belt too. And you're like, your mind goes into this place that is harmful to you. One, recognizing it and understanding it. And two, then do you have tools that specifically work for you, that things that give you that same sort of comfort, because it's going to be different for everybody. Like me, it's like going for a walk, taking a long shower, turning on a podcast, talking to a friend, talking it out, of like that. I know that instead of doing something that's harmful to myself, how can I find a way to alleviate that in different ways? And that is a long, hard process.
And it's a constant process.
Yeah.
As our girl Brene Brown always says, like, you got to wrestle in the yuck of it. Like you have to get in there and like kind of really understand it.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part of like facing those things of, why do I do this? Why? Like, it's hard. Yeah. But like you said, you find better strategy, find better people to help with it, and it gets easier over time. But it's a hard, constant battle.
Well, and another question that we had, we don't need to really get into, but I think it fits into this. Somebody just like asked about like a sugar addiction, which comes up all the time, of like, I just need sugars. And from something I heard that at least resonated with me is that when like, does having like the ice cream trigger a comforting feeling for you? Like, was it getting ice cream as a kid? Was it like a reward? Like ice cream usually comes with like birthday parties, and it usually comes with a comfortable feeling other than it just being delicious. So if it's like the end of the day and you feel like I have to have something sweet and I have this sugar addiction, is it really the sugar that you're craving, or is it the comfort that is associated with eating the sweet food? And like, so it's things like that of, again, that's not necessarily true for everyone, but to sit and think about that the next time you're like, I got to have my nightly ice cream. Is it the ice cream, or is it the comfort? And then is there something else that can provide you that same comfort without providing you this level of bullying yourself and guilt that you feel from making that choice if that choice doesn't feel good for you. And it's like, those are the hard sort of decisions versus like, oh, I'm going to no sugar November, or I'm going to just rip this out of my life. And then ultimately that's not going to work because you're not looking at the root problem of I need the comfort, not necessarily the sugar.
Yeah, it's exactly that. There's these ties, there's a comfort side, and we're creatures of habit. So like, how many times have you been doing this, right? Well, it's, kids went to bed, time for my ice cream.
Yeah.
Day's been stressful. I've been running around chasing kids, doing this, doing that, like beating myself up, talking negatively. And then you do the ice cream because it's that comfort. It's that habit, that routine that we're into. And it's easily accessible. It's right there for you because we have it, because that's been your routine. And then you're done. Typically in those situations, people tend to then feel bad about themselves. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I made a bad choice. Reset the next day, kicking your own ass, yelling at yourself, being negative. That whole day repeats. And then it starts up, this will comfort me. This will be good. Negative self-talk, rinse, repeat all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not getting to those. More people should see a therapist. Really? Like, I mean,
I would argue everyone needs to see a
Like,
therapist. Yeah. I mean, it's so much of the mental health part, which I'm glad is more in the forefront of these conversations now. And it's at least, a little bit, it doesn't feel like it's Tony Soprano level, like where it's like anymore, where it's like so taboo of like, you have a therapist? Well, you must be damaged. No, it just feels like, no, like, especially going through a pandemic of like, no, we've all been through some trauma and like, we need to like deal with that in ways because it presents itself in your life in so many ways that you might not even realize. If talk therapy doesn't work for you, is there another form of therapy or body work or something like that can help you like release those sorts of things, to act like that we're immune to how like whacked this world can be? Is I think like kind of a pipe dream. It's affecting us in some sort of way, mentally and physically. And so much of the conversations that I actually had, like one yesterday, of like how much of these mental stresses present in the body. So then, you might have like sciatic issues or lower back pain, which could be from an injury, but it could also be like you're dealing with some mental trauma and you're just your system's kind of overloaded, and all of a sudden it's presenting itself in your body. And that's how your body is working together to tell you to slow down, is it's trying to give you that stop sign in some sort of way, because your brain and your body are talking together and you're not helping it, that could be a possibility for a lot of things too. And it's, that's where so much of the mental health goes in. It's like, so not only to work through your own mental issues, but possibly some body issues too, of how it's so important to seek therapy in whatever way that you can to actually help yourself, versus being like, I'm going to eat nothing but Halo Top and I'm going to exercise 3 hours a day and that's going to fix the problem.
We fight ourselves. Everything comes back to like, there's no intuition. There's no listening to ourselves. There's no helping ourselves. It's constantly battling ourselves and thinking we can white knuckle everything. And you can't. Like, you just can't. And it's a hard lesson for people to learn.
So going back to, because it is hard and it's a process and needing your community and coaches. So tell me all about the new Trilogy space and everything that you offer, and how people, if they are in Cincinnati, how they can come find you. And if they're not in Cincinnati, how can they find you?
Yeah. So if you're not in Cincinnati, we do work with some people remotely. So trilogyfitnesssystems.com. We have a little contact form in there. Instagram is Trilogy Fitness Systems. People can slide in the DMs. I'll answer questions. I like to chat with people. It gives me ideas for content and questions to come in and chat with you about all the time. But we're a semi-private personal training model, meaning it's a kind of a hybrid group plus personal training, meaning we're going to adjust the individual. We're going to meet the person where they are in kind of a group-ish setting. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the fun community, but you get to individualize work all at the same time. So we can make sure, if you have knee pain, we adjust around the knee pain. We're not going to, it says we do this today. No, it's going to cater to the person at the same time. The new space it's pretty cool. Like it's just a beautiful space. It's about 6,000 square feet. It's nice and big. It's wide open. There's windows. So we got all this light in there now, which is incredible. But yeah, it allows us to spread out, fit more people in, and have more fun in there, which is all I want people to do is realize like this stuff can be fun, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be a battle, and it shouldn't be a punishment to you. It should be enjoyable and fulfilling to your life.
Awesome. Well, I always have so much fun talking to you, and we'll have to gather some more listener questions and get after it again.
Same season. I'm always will be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
AmandaValentineBites.com